What's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? This is Miss Mary from Mary Negron School of Nails, and we have Miss Shayla as joining us, our instructor, Miss Shayla. She's muted herself, but far as I can tell, you muted yourself. But
Hey
today,
everybody.
okay, there we go. Today we're going to talk about the Georgia State Board. Well, it's no longer really just the Georgia State Board, is it? Because it's not. They changed it across the board. Everybody's state board is exactly the same when it comes to nails. If it's a PSI exam, okay. So if you are in a PSI state, if not just Georgia anymore, if you are in a PSI state, a state that uses PSI to test their nail technicians. And we are only going to talk about nail techs today. So sorry, Cosmo people. We get sick of talking about y'all all the time. That's all they talked about at this meeting that we went to. So we're going to talk just about nail techs today and the changes that have been made. And honestly, we kind of talked about this maybe sometime last year, and we were scared to death, like, oh my God, they did all these changes. With the clarifications, it's actually going to be a lot easier for you guys to pass your state boards. And we're going to go all over that today. Okay. So, what we ask is that you guys, if you are on TikTok or if you're watching from somewhere else, please go to YouTube so that you can ask your questions, because we can actually go back and answer your questions at the end of this live. So your question gets answered. I'm going to focus on the screen that's in front of me and not necessarily TikTok. However, you guys are privy to this information. We do have stuff on the screen. I'm glad Shayla is here, because she is the instructor at Mary Negron School of Nails on Fridays and Saturdays. And she also is the the go-to person for our state board training. If my students want to do one-on-ones or any of that stuff, they schedule that with her so that they can pass their state board a whole lot easier. So she went with me. So just to backtrack, we went to Macon. We were invited by PSI, which is the testing company that is the middleman between school and the state board. There were hundreds of people in there from all over the state of Georgia, so that we could get this information to relay it to you guys. So we drove all the way to Macon, spent all day together, and I'm glad we did. So let's start. They did a slide deck. So I basically made this so that you guys can see it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the screen here so that you guys can see the same thing we saw. Okay. And we're also going to do a Q&A, questions that were asked at the actual state, this meeting, and also questions that have been asked to PSI since they made the changes. So the workshop was a few hours long, so it's a lot of information, but we're going to try to get it all in this one live. Hopefully we won't be here too long, but we'll stay as long as we need, if I guess. Okay. So some of the things that they relayed to us, first and foremost, there is a new law out there with the big beautiful bill. If you guys are not familiar with it, you probably should. In the legislature, it's basically schools that are getting funding from the government. 90% of them are at risk of being closed. Now, that's a big deal, because basically what they're saying is that these schools are taking funding from the government, and they're training these nail techs, or excuse me, nail techs, hairstylists, whatever. They're training them, and they are getting all this money from the government, taxpayer money, and they're not producing nail techs and hairstylists that are actually able to live and make it in the workforce. So this is a big deal. Fortunately for us, we are a private owned school. We don't accept government funds. I don't know that we ever will. For reasons of like this, they give it to you, they can take it away. So this is a big deal that, we get you guys prepared not only for state board, but for real life. And one of the things that they talked about was this Nevada legislative report. If you guys can see on here, basically this talked about, and this was the reason for a lot of the changes. This table here explains the risk factors for different services that we do in the cosmetology field. So if you notice here, and I'm gonna make this big and kick us off so you guys can see, but hair removal was the top um risk top service for had the most risk factors, 18 different risk factors for infection control, injuries, things of that nature. But very, 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 very close to the top of the list, because there's about what, 20 something on here, is basic pedicure was the top service that nail techs do that is can cause injuries, or clients can get infections and things from. So with a risk factor of 24%. So they've made a lot of changes to this state board because of these things. Acrylic nails was right behind it. I talk to you guys all the time and let you, try to express to you how dangerous what we do on a daily basis can be, not only to us as the nail techs, but also to the general public. So you've got acrylics right behind basic pedicure. You've got acrylic, that's acrylic fill-ins, acrylic nails, and then dip nails. I think nails, don't you think nails is almost like nails is on here more than hair? You've got basic pedicure, acrylic fill-ins, acrylic nails, basic manicures. These Russian manicures and things of that nature, they have a 16 different factors that they calculated that can cause injury to the client and also to the nail technician, with dip nails being up there very close to the top, gel polish, soak offs. I mean, basic polishes is all the way at the bottom with the lowest risk factors. But imagine that, just a basic polish having a risk factor for infection to not only the nail tech but also the general public. So that was very eye-opening for me, and I wanted to make sure that you guys saw this list. This was a study that they did. They also did point out that a lot of customers do not report when things happen to them, right? They stated that they don't want to tell on the nail tech if they cut them or if they got an infection. They don't, 9 times out of 10 probably don't even know. So these numbers are very important, but they also are probably higher than what we're seeing here on this actual table here. So that's kind of scary. So that was a lot of the reasons why they changed the state board. Okay. So we also wanted to let you guys know about the compact. Okay. And this was something that was new to me. I had never heard about it, but there's a bunch of states that have come together and enacted a legally binding agreement between multiple states. So basically, without having to read this whole thing, because I hate when people read slides, I'm like, I can read the slide. But basically what this means, that if I have a license in Georgia, then my license is good in, let's just say, Florida. Now, that is not true right now because Florida hasn't joined the compact. Okay. The compact right now is only between, I think they said about 10, 12 states right now at max. We want that to be at 50 states. And this is me personally, I don't know about everyone else, but I truly believe that nail tech, hairstylists, all of this, there should be no difference in the hours. There should be no difference in if you are licensed. And even if there is a difference in the hours, if I'm licensed in one state, I should be able to get a license in another state, hands down. So if you want more information on that, or if you would like to talk to your legislators, definitely reach out to them at the Cosmetology Compact at csg.org. I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's a great thing. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to my legislator about it. You definitely should too. Instead of us having to have multiple licenses in multiple states and things of that nature, this is a good thing. Okay, Shayla, feel free to jump in at any time. Miss Shayla's at work right now at her week day job during the week where she does nails, but I'm glad she could be here with us. So feel free to jump in if you have anything to say. Okay. Now, some of the things that were major changes, and I was kind of floored at this one, was that now every single kit inside your kit, and this goes for every single license, whether it is nail techs, whether it's estheticians, whether it's Cosmo, whatever, on this list right here, these things must have a manufactured label. What does that mean? That means if you're a nail tech, you cannot go into the state board anymore with a bottle of acetone that's like this. Let me just show you an example. It cannot just say acetone, okay? It has to have a manufacturer's label on it. Now, I'm going to just be honest with you. That's going to be a little difficult to find a bottle of acetone that's not huge that has the manufacturer's label on that. But we'll get to some of the changes later because honestly, now you don't even need acetone anymore. That's kind of mind blowing, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay. So disinfectant, alcohol, hand sanitizer, acetone, monomer, all of these have to have a label on them, the original label, okay? And your monomer no longer can be can just have like a plastic seal, but that is something that I need to check on because they did show a picture with just a plastic seal. But neither here nor there, our school has gotten one of those foil sealers, so we can foil seal our monomers now. But everything that is an actual chemical, okay, an actual chemical, it must have the manufacturer's label on that. So there are some things now with the new changes that we can actually mock. So that is, again, a lot of these things we don't even need to have in our kits anymore. But I will say that the disinfectant, the hand sanitizer, and the monomer, it must have the original manufactured label on it. As far as pertaining to nail techs with our kits, we're going to take out the acetone and alcohol. And again, you'll want to sit here through this entire live so we can explain why. Okay. So any questions about that? Again, if you have questions, please go to our YouTube channel, Mary Negron School of Nails, so that you can ask your question, because we will answer questions at the end. Okay. Make sure you drop them into the live chat. All right. Shayla, you got anything to say about that? Am I right about all of that? I had to make sure
good,
just in case I heard something or I was wrong about it. Luckily, they recorded the entire meeting so we could go back and rewatch it if we had any questions. All right.
Yep.
So I'm going to move on to the way they score. Okay. So now they're using what's known as the Oscar scoring. It's called Oscar scoring, and it stands for online scoring and reporting. So when you guys are taking your state board, okay, you're going to you will need to download. I mean, we make sure our students have one, but you're going to want to download the Georgia Nail Tech or Nail Technician Bulletin or Test Taker Guide. And this is very important because in the guide there is literally a list of everything that they are scoring you on. Okay. So here, for instance, and of course they used hair as an example and not nails, but here what they are looking for are the things that you didn't do. Okay. Because this test has now been changed to a way in which there really is no right way to do things with the test. Am I right in saying that? They said that this is really, you can't fail it by the way you do it. It's the things that you do wrong that you can be failed for. For example, they're looking when they're looking for a hairstylist to detangle the hair with a brush. If you did not detangle the hair, they give you points off for that. If you did not use an actual brush like they tell you to, you get points off for that. If you started detangling, in the middle instead of at the wherever hairstylists do that mess, they're going to give you points off for that. So you need to be more focused on doing everything that you're supposed to do and not doing the things that you're not supposed to do, because they're going to be giving you taking away points based on that. Okay. So that's their new scoring system. And from my understanding, everything is videotaped. So if you ever if you're ever like, you know what, I know I sanitized my hands, I know I didn't, touch my hair and then not sanitize my hands, they can always go back and look at the tapes to make sure that their proctors did not make a mistake. Okay. But these are things that they reiterated several times. They need to know the same day. Don't wait until 6 months. Okay. Later, I know I did this. I know I did that. And then report it. It's a little too late for that. Okay. So we do see the questions. Thank you for joining the YouTube. We will get to your questions at the end. Okay. Just make sure you ask them so we see them. All right. So now there's some updates to the Georgia State Board that we actually think are amazing when it comes to their sites. So I talked about the Oscar scoring. I think that one should have been ahead of the other one. All right. And I also did say that this is a test that you can't really teach it when it comes to what you have to do, right? It's really now it's whatever you were taught in school, as long as you do that and you don't not sanitize your hands, or if there's things that you can do wrong, but there's really no right way to do it. Okay. And I'm really excited about this. I think you guys will be too. There That gives us as educators the freedom to teach this state board however we want to teach it. For example, there's no particular technique anymore. There's no steps for a manicure that you are going to have to do, that if you don't do them in a certain order you will fail. Okay. However, we do things in steps. We definitely remove polish before we start laying new polish on. But now there's no particular technique, and what that means is you can now do a gel nail at state board. I love this. I think this is great. I hate odorless monomer. It's the bane of my existence. I think students hate using odorless monomer as well. You no longer have to use odorless monomer. You can use gel, builder gel, or acrogel to create your sculpted nail. This is a big game changer here, ladies and gentlemen. That odorless monomer is the worst stuff ever. You guys do not use it in real life when you leave from school. So it's kind of like, why am I being tested with a medium that I'm never going to use when I get out of school, but I have to use it at state board? Made no sense. Okay. So now they will allow you to use anything that is odorless. So that includes gels. Okay. So whatever you want to do for your sculpted nail, whatever you're good at, and we at Mary Negron School of Nails are going to eliminate with the state board using the odorless monomer completely. We know at school that you guys know how to do an acrylic nail, but unfortunately you can't use regular acrylic. You have to use odorless acrylic, which is something you guys are not used to using on a daily basis. So we are going to, when it comes to the state board, we're going to be training, and me and Shayla decided on this, that we're going to be using acrogel. Okay. So polygel, things of that nature. So you can now bring gel lamps to your state board. They have electricity now that is available for you guys to plug up your lamps. Okay. If you want to do a gel service, which I highly recommend. They're also now allowing you guys to use electric nail files. E-files are now able to be used at state board. This is a game changer, y'all, especially for the nail techs that do not want to hand file. Now, when it comes to our training, when you guys are training with our school, and when you buy our videos, we don't assume that everyone has an e-file. We don't assume that everyone knows how to use an e-file. So we are still going to train our students to hand file at state board. Okay. It would be to me, the easiest thing, making it as easy as possible is the best option. What if you get to state board and your e-file is dead? What if you get to state board and your portable nail lamp is dead? You want to make sure that you have stuff that you can plug in, charge, make sure it's all charged up. But when it comes to our training, we're just going to eliminate the use of we're going to eliminate the things that are unnecessary. And that is an e-file. You guys should know how to hand file one nail. Okay. So, but it is an option for you people who are not students at our school, it is an option for you to bring an electric file now, as well as do a gel service instead of acrylic, which I think is amazing. So there's really no right or wrong way to do this test anymore when it comes to the state board. Now we'll go over the things that changed, what they added, what they took away in a minute, but I want to go through these slides quickly so you guys get this information, because I don't want to derail. Okay, now this is new to the testing. So they have what they're calling a red book, and I'm assuming that it's called a red book because they put it in a red folder. Okay, but the red book is the bulletin. Now at the state board, and in this bulletin is every bit of how to pass the state board test. From now on, the red book will be available for you to have on your desk while you are taking the state board. Now, here's the caveat to that. You can't touch it, which to me is weird. That kind of threw me a little bit. To me, it's very weird. You can't touch it. You have to ask the proctor to turn the page for you to the page that, I guess, whatever section you're on, right? So they're calling this the red book, again, assuming that it's in a red notebook, all right? So this will, if you have questions while you're taking the state board about anything that you should have done, or what they're testing you on, it will be there for you to see. It's you can't fail this state board. I think it's unfailable at this stage, to be honest, when it comes to the practical. Okay. Now in Georgia, because remember, I told y'all in the beginning, the state board now is across the board the same. If it is a PSI test, okay, every state is not PSI. I can't call off the top of my head which ones aren't, okay, but every state does not use PSI. For the states that do use PSI, and Georgia is one of them, this cheat sheet basically will be on your desk for you to be able to refer to during your exam. Now, if you're in another state that is not Georgia that uses PSI, some of those states allow it to be in Spanish and other languages like Vietnamese. Those books will be in the language that you request. So if you're a Spanish speaker native, and not in Georgia, let me reiterate that. In Georgia, it is English only. But in other states that allow that, it will be in those languages. And this book will be on your station. Okay. Now, and that's a great thing. All right. Now, there are some changes to the way they want you to set up your table. Okay. Now, there's really no wrong way to set up your table, but there is 2 changes that they're wanting to make, and that's no more trash bags. Okay. Also, no more soiled linen bags. Only single use and multi-use. They want your kit to be small enough. Now, if you have one of my kits, if you go to my school, you're A1. If you ordered one of my kits, you're good to go. The only change that you may want to make is throw away the trash bag, throw away the soiled linen bag, and get another bag, trash bag, or whatever bag that says single use and multi-use. Now, what is different about that? If you have towels, where does your towel go? Instead of the soiled linen bag, where would it go? It would go in the multi-use, because you would wash that and you would launder it and reuse it. So it would go in your multi-use bag. If it is a puppy pad, if you choose to use one of those puppy pads or one of those, cotton pads or what is it called? I got one right. I got some right here. Some of the, these type that are
dental bibs.
The dental bib, those, yeah. Where do those go? Well, those are trash. You wouldn't wash them, so they would go into the single use bag. So that's the only change that they made when it came to the bags. The reason for the changes in the size of the kit, they were having people show up with kits that were in like huge suitcases. Now I get that for the Cosmos, but you can't fit that underneath your table. So they changed that, the size they recommend, no bigger than 24 by 24 by 24. That's still pretty darn big, but our nail tech kits are going to be very different from now on. Now, like I said, don't fret for those of you that have bought a kit. You still have everything in your kit that you need. You're just going to want to take some of this stuff out, and we'll talk some things out to make it easier for you, or just not use those things when it comes down to you doing your state board. We'll get to those things in a minute. Okay. So they have an example here of how they want your table to be set up. Okay. Now, when it says laptop or camera, I'm assuming that's where they're recording you. Okay. They have a laptop or camera. You are going to be sitting on the opposite side, that right there where it says, kit under the table. You'll be sitting there. Your two bags will be beside you. That's the only difference. And honestly, this is suggested. Let's be clear here. All of this is suggested. Okay. So if for some reason you decide you want to put your, kit behind you, I don't know, they may have a problem. They may tell you just put it under the table. But where you put your items, as long as you can reach them and see them, you're good you're gold. Okay. So that's, to me, they eliminated things from the test. They didn't add very much at all, other than, some requirements for labeling, things like that. Okay. We'll go over that in a minute. Now, when it comes to the updated test content, so let me back away from this for a second. So when they talk about the updated test content, if you were to look inside of the Georgia Nail Technician Guide, right? The topics, okay, there are now only 5 topics instead of 7. So they eliminated completely the blood exposure procedure. You do not have to perform that at the end like we used to train. Okay. Now, does that mean you don't have to have a blood exposure procedure? Absolutely not. We will make sure that you have a first aid kit in our kits. We make sure that you know how to do a blood exposure procedure, because if you cut yourself at the state board, or if an injury that you have on your hand, because Lord knows I constantly have some kind of little cut on my hand, if it starts bleeding, you must do a blood exposure procedure. So, and correctly. So they're not testing you on a blood exposure procedure any longer, but they are requiring you to still have that blood exposure procedure in your kit. Okay. So that's one of the changes that was made. And they also removed the soak off. So remember earlier when I said you don't really need acetone anymore? So why bring it if it's something that you don't need? You don't need acetone. All right. You don't need acetone at all. So don't worry. If you have acetone in your kit, take it out. If you bought a kit from me and you have the removal of the sculpted nail section in that kit, take it out of the bag. Okay, just take it out. No need for you to even use it. Okay. Now, those are the 2 parts that were removed completely. Okay. So that eliminates a bunch of products that you're no longer going to need in the kit for your state board. Now, the sections that they do have, that's going to be your work area prep, your work area prep, meaning you're setting up for a client. You're just getting the table set up. You're not doing anything to the client yet. Same as before. Okay. No different. The next topic is the basic manicure. Now, here's the great thing about that is now there's no longer a polish required. So what does that mean? That means if you have a kit from us that you're getting ready to take your state board, you don't need the base coat, the top coat, the polish, or the polish remover, because there's no longer a removal of the polish at the end of the basic manicure anymore. So you're basically doing a manicure, a dry, and mind you, this is on a mannequin hand. Okay. This should take you no time to do. All right. So the basic they still give you 20 minutes to do it. Okay. And you don't have to polish. So the polish is completely eliminated. So there's another chemical that you don't have to worry about bringing, as well as having a manufacturer label on there. Out of the picture completely. Okay. Is there anything you want to add to that, Shayla, about the basic manicure? We're going to go over the Q&As at the end. So I'm making sure that I'm correct. So No
Just
polishing. Go ahead.
so I just wanted to reiterate that all of the evaluation of what they're going to be testing you on and making sure that you do is going to be in that bulletin. So
Yes.
that's what you need to use to study.
And it's literally right here. And remember, you're going to have this on your desk. So if you, I highly recommend that you ask the proctor for every section to turn it to the page that has the instructions on it. So that way you can read down and say, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do? Okay, I did everything. Now I'm golden, right? So with the manicure, all they're looking for, okay, so let me go back to the workstation prep, what they're evaluating you on. Okay, so again, remember we said there's no wrong way to do it, but there is things that they're looking for. What they're looking for you to do is prepare your daily workstation. What does that mean? How does that have to look? Well, it's however you were taught in school. They're not going to say this is wrong. If you say that you don't want to have any towels, you don't have, they said there's no, you don't have to use towels anymore. So we at our school are going to eliminate towels in our kits from now on. Why do you need a towel? There's no reason to have one anymore. And you're probably more like, but with the basic manicure, we'll get to that in a second, because you don't no longer have to bring water or soap. You can do a dry manicure now. So for you ladies that when you're that are know how to do a full set, and you know how you go in and you push the cuticle back, and you don't use a manicure bowl, because I don't know anybody that does. You no longer have to have water or soap during the manicure anymore. You can do a dry manicure. What is the right or wrong way to do that? Well, that's however you learned in school. They're only looking for certain things. So the evaluation of the workstation prep is prepares daily workstation, adheres to workplace infection control precautions, and adheres to workplace safety precautions. What does that mean? That means you're sanitizing your hands. That means you're sanitizing your table. That means that you are making sure that if you, now here's a big thing, y'all. If you touch your face, if you sneeze, if you touch your hair, ladies and gentlemen, if you have long hair, and I mean any type of long hair, whether it's braids, whether it's long extensions, anything that you are going to be doing like this the whole time during your test, tie it up, tie it up, tie it up tight. Because if you touch it and you don't sanitize your hands, points will be taken away. This is very important. Okay. Um, Now, with the basic manicure, what they are looking for you to do is prepare your basic manicure station, adhere to infection control precautions and safety procedures, prepare the client for that basic manicure, and basically make sure that you're cleaning up your table and stuff as you go. There's no right or wrong way to do the manicure. Again, with the way we're going to teach it, we're going to teach y'all to do a dry manicure with no water, no nothing. This is for state board. Okay. Will you still learn how to do manicures in school? Absolutely. Are we going to bring water and soap if we don't have to? Absolutely not. Why give yourself more headache if you don't need to do it? Okay. So and today we're not, you guys, just for clarity, we're not going to show you the state board on this live today. We're not going to do the state board. I will answer questions about it, but we're not going to perform it. Okay, for any of you guys that are here thinking that we're about to do it, that's for another live. Okay, we're just talking about the changes now. Topic 3 is going to be your nail tip application. Now, one of the biggest thing that changed about the state board this time now is that you no longer have to listen for a specific finger. You can choose whatever finger you want to use to do these different topics. Okay, so when you get ready to do your nail tip with application, they're looking for all of the same things. Before your workstation is clean, you're clean, you're not touching your face, not didn't forget to disinfect, your hands, client's hands. All of that is still the same. The only difference is you get to choose which finger you want to work on. Totally the same. Okay. Now, someone asked me, is this for every state? This is for every state that uses PSI for their testing, y'all. If it's a PSI testing site that you're going to, This is what's it's now nationally the same test. No change, no different change, no different testing for different states. Used to be Texas was different than Georgia, and Georgia was different than, North Carolina and South Carolina. They're all the same now. Okay. Now, nothing major changed about the nail tech, the nail tip application. Now, one good thing about this, because remember I said earlier that it's however you were taught. So let's just say your teacher taught you to use gel and glue instead of regular glue, right? Nail glue. Is that going to be wrong? Are you going to be taking points away for that? Absolutely not. They are no longer requiring you to do certain techniques. You can do whatever techniques that you were taught in school. This is a game changer, y'all. Complete game changer. Okay. So still have 20 minutes to do it, which is plenty of time. Now, I will say this. Now, instead of turning your hand around like we used to do, where you to let the proctor know that you're done, now you got to stand your butt up. So what that means is if you get done in 5 minutes, you're about to be standing probably for 15 minutes. I don't know if they'll let you sit back down or what. That I didn't ask that question. You'll just have to find out when you get there. Okay. But you stand up when you're done out of your chair, from your table, out of your chair, and to let them know that you're done. Okay. Now, the next section, which is the nail enhancement using a form. It used to be called sculpted nail procedure because it used to be with a acrylic. Now it's just nail enhancement using a form. Now you still have to use a form, but you can use any product you prefer to use that is odorless. So that means gel, builder gel, UV gel, LED gel, builder gel, acrogel, or odorless acrylic. Okay. Just remember that if you're using odorless acrylic, it must be sealed. They didn't say anything about gel. They didn't say gel had to be sealed. They just said acrylic. Me personally, our kits are going to have a sealed small sample bottle of our acrogel. Okay, that's small enough for you to do one nail on. If you want to go buy a brand new big ass tube of acrogel, perfectly fine. Just make sure it has a little foil seal on it. Okay, everything must be sealed and the original container. Don't bring the one that you got from school that has no label on it and just says UV gel. Okay, they're gonna not allow you to do that portion. Now here, let me put this in perspective. I've had students, because they didn't know about the changes and we didn't either, went to state board, took their state board, their monomer did not have the foil seal on it. They took the monomer, so they weren't allowed to do that part of the service, and they still passed their state board. Why? Because there's no soak off now. So you didn't fail 2 sections, you just failed 1. Okay. So we don't want anybody to fail any sections, but if you do go to state board and you don't have your monomer is not sealed and you don't get to do that section, you're probably still going to pass. Okay. You're probably still going to pass. Now, the only thing that changed about that is still on a sculpting form. You still must sculpt on a form, y'all. It's your choice. It's whatever you want to do. So be sure that you bring a lamp if you're going to be doing a UV gel. We're not going to be including gel lamps in our kits. Okay. So if you want to do a gel service, you need to bring a gel lamp. Okay. Make sure that lamp is charged. Make sure if it's not a one that charges, that you have a plug, the cord, so you can plug it in. They said they will have power from now on. And if you have one of those little miniature ones that, you can like flash cure it, make sure it's strong enough to completely cure the nail. That's all I'm going to tell you about that. Now, what they're looking for with this, same things as before, that you have a clean station, clean hands, clean nail tech, clean client. Okay. And it says apply a nail enhancement using a form. It says workplace infection control procedures and precautions are always upheld, and that you clean up your workstation afterwards. Nothing changed. As a matter of fact, what I love about this new state board is that you have more freedom as a nail tech to literally do things the way you do every day. Okay. Now, if you're going to a crappy school that's teaching you the wrong way to do stuff, then that's unfortunate for you. But for those people who are learning properly how to do these procedures, you should be just fine. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. They really just want you guys to be clean. Don't be nasty. Just don't be nasty nail techs. All right. And the last thing, the difference in this last one, which is the workstation preparation for the next client, the only difference here, and Shayla, correct me if I'm wrong, instead of taking everything at the end like we used to do and putting it in either the to be disinfected trash or soiled linen bag, here we're actually cleaning up our table like we would as if we were just imagine you did your last client of the day. What would you do with all your stuff, right? Are you going to throw it in a bag that says to be disinfected or multi-use or single use? No. What you're going to do is you're going to push it all to the side, right? Clean off your table and leave for the day. Make sure it's clean and ready for the next client. So all they're looking for you to do, now one change that they did say, they don't want you to leave your mannequin hand on the table. They want you to put it on the floor, which I think is weird, but they want you to take that mannequin hand and put it on the floor beside you. All right. All of your stuff that you use. Go ahead, Shayla. Jump right in.
No, I just wanted to say one thing. So as far as the things that need to be disinfected and things that are single use, as you're doing your service, you should be putting these things in those bags as you're going anyway. So by the time that you're finished, the only thing that you have on your station is your blood exposure procedure, your Lysol wipes or disinfectant wipes, and your hand sanitizer in your hand.
Your universal supplies, just the same as before.
Supplies. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So at the end, which I'm glad she pointed that out, you're always going to have your nothing changed about that. Universal supplies still stay on the table. Blood exposure, wipes, hand sanitizer, hand. Period. Right? Everything else goes in either single use or multi-use. Now at the end, you're gonna have all your sculpted stuff and anything that's still on your table that you would like me. If I were to pan this camera over here, you will see that I have. Okay, let me just show it to you. This thing with all of my supplies in it, right? In real life, when I'm done with my client, what do? I put those things to the side in that little container. Now, you're not going to have a container at State Board, but you can push those things to the side and just wipe your table down. Remember, you've got to always have gloves on when you're wiping your table down. You need to make sure that you always have, you're always sanitizing your hands after you do all the dirty stuff, right? And then you just stand up and you're done. The State Board is almost, with all these changes, there's no excuse for you to fail it. Literally no excuse. And I will say that our students that went to take the State Board that did not know about these changes, I didn't know, they still passed because they were overly prepared. Okay. Some of the things that they may or may not have had, like an extra pair of gloves, because at this stage, I think now you probably need to have about 3 or 4 sets of gloves instead of just the 2 that we used to put in the kit. But what they did to improvise was they took the gloves out of the blood exposure procedure and used those. So they had enough. They just would have to let us know, suggested that we put more gloves in the kit. So the changes you will see in our kits is we are no longer going to put the polish in there because there's no need for it. We're no longer going to put any chemicals inside of the kit other than what you need for your sculpted nail. Okay. There's no need for alcohol, big bottle of alcohol. So what we're going to be putting is alcohol, the little wipes that you use, because it doesn't matter. It has a label on it, to remove the tacky layer of your gel. Because again, we're going to be teaching with gel. You're going to need alcohol also to wipe the tacky layer with monomer as well, if you're using odorless monomer. So instead of having all these things that could get points taken away from you, we're just not going to include them in the kit anymore. We're going to add extra gloves. We're taking away the towels. They said there's no need. You don't have to have towels. A lot of you nail techs do not use towels at all when you're doing nails. I personally do not use towels. I use puppy pads or the plastic bag dental bibs. Those can go into the single use bag, right? You're just going to need to remember, if it's trash or it goes into single use. If it's something you're going to use again, it goes into the multi-use. We're no longer going to have 3 bags in there. We're going to take away the trash, the soiled linen, and the trash, soiled linen, and the to be disinfected. It'll now just be single use, multi-use. Okay. And then we're taking out we're adding more gloves. We're going to add a little bag that has a bunch of gloves in it. And I would suggest you just keep that on your table as a one of your universal supplies. End of story. This makes the kit much smaller. However, we are adding Acrogel to the kit, so the price of our kits probably won't change much. I may put some dental bibs in there just because those are cheap and you can throw them away just in case you want to use them. But I highly recommend that you guys look over this bulletin. Those are the major changes to the actual practical of the state board. Okay. Now, the nail technician theory exam, that has changed quite a bit too. All right. 50%, and it's right here in black and white. 50% of the nail technician theory exam is safety and infection control. Okay. 50%. If you don't know your infection control, then you're not going to pass. End of story. They took out all of the situational questions. Like, for instance, if Sally shows up at the nail salon, blah, 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 like those type of questions have been thrown out of the test. Okay. The other 50%, the other percentages of the test is almost 20%. 18% is going to be your client consultation, as well as your and that's things like client intake, consent forms, client medical, seeking a medical opinion, and then also your nail disorders, skin and nail disorders. Okay. And then your reactions, diseases, and contraindications, meaning allergic reactions, skin diseases, disorders, nail diseases, disorders, adverse reactions. And a lot of that is your science. Okay. Another 10% is going to be on skincare. Okay. Massage, skincare safety, meaning tools and machines that you're using, devices, things of that nature, hot towels, skincare. And that's 10%. And then the other 22% is going to be actually about nails. So when you're the nail procedures, like your products, tools, equipments, cuticle removal, buffing nails, things like that, workstation environment, and your nail enhancements. So if you have done any of our courses, whether they are the practical practices online or the theory practices online, if you do it that way, you're still going to pass. Okay. Do not fret. They're just removing some things. So you might look down at your kit and go, oh my God, I got a whole removal here. They're not making me do it. Well, good. That's one less thing that you have to worry about failing. Okay. So focus on my advice to you, because now you have to pass with what is it with the theory now?
70.
70 is the passing grade, or was it I thought they made it higher actually. Hold on, let me look. It's still 90 minutes, all right, but it's less questions too, you guys. They changed it from 110 questions to 90 questions, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so
it's 60 questions, 90 minutes.
60 questions, 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So Mara said 65. Mara said 65. We're gonna go with Mara. She just left the other day. It says 5. There's 5 non-scored experimental questions. That's what she's talking about.
That's why.
So there's 5 non-scored. So there's actually only 60 that they test you on, that you get a grade for. So 90 minutes to complete that test. All right. So and the passing score, Mara, you remember what the passing score is? I don't want to have to read through this.
It says test takers will score with a 70.
70. So now you have less questions, same amount of time, less questions, which is good. That means you have more time to answer the questions, but you also have less questions. So that means that you need to do better. You need to practice and make sure you're doing your practice test. Focus on the infection control. Okay. Focus on that, because that's 50% of your test. And if I were you, if you pass every safety control, infection control question, that just leaves another what, 20% in order for you to pass. If you do really really good on just the nail care section, you'll be fine. All right. We want you guys to pass with 100%. All right. That's the goal. But 70 is to me 70 when I was growing up, 70 was failing. I don't know about y'all, but 70% was a D. So, and the D was a failing grade in my household. So, that's the theory. We haven't had any students fail the theory as of yet since the new change. So, or the state board exam practical either. We haven't had any, even though we didn't know about the changes or what the change. We knew about the changes. We didn't know exactly what they were expecting. The students are still showing up. They still have the same kits. Nothing changed in the kits because we didn't change it, and they're still passing the exam. Okay. So expect the kits to be a little bit different if you buy a kit from us from now on. But again, I wouldn't be so much worried about the practical. The practical to me at this stage in the game is unfailable. Unless blowing your nose and not cleaning your tables, you gotta do that infection control. Okay. Now, if there's any questions about anything that we're saying, please go over to the YouTube and type it in the chat. We will get to your question very shortly.
I had one thing for the scoring report. So after you finish your test, they will send you a email with your reports within 48 hours of taking your exam. So it's no longer after you finish your exam, they print out your sheet and they tell you whether you pass or fail. You will get your scoring report. And based off of the meeting, they did say that you can request, if you failed, that you can request a breakdown of exactly what you failed so that you can go back and practice.
As well as if you think you didn't fail,
correct,
they will review your test score as well as the video of you doing your state board. Okay. And now that is for practical. Theory, you'll know as soon as you finish because it's computerized. You'll find out right away. Okay. So if you have any questions about that, make sure you drop that in the chat. Now, we are going to now answer some questions because there was a ton of questions that other people had for PSI. It was 21 pages, but only about 3 pages of it, once I broke it down, is for nails. So we're going to quickly go over some of these questions that other educators had for PSI that have the exact answer. Okay. So one of the questions was, can the container that has their general supplies touch the table before it has been wiped down yet? So we used to teach our students, don't put your kits on the table because they're technically, the outside of them is dirty, right? You don't want to put that on the table. So the answer to that, especially after you have disinfected it, so the answer to that is items that come out of the supply kit are considered disinfected, right? So when you take your stuff out, you want to make sure that your table is disinfected prior to having it out. But everything that is in that bag is considered disinfected. So don't worry about putting it on the table. If you haven't disinfected your hands and all that, everything is considered clean, okay, and disinfected. But unless they're invisibly dirty, which hopefully you're not bringing anything old and dirty to the state board. Now the supplies can remain in the kit, and the qualifying disinfectant wipe is used to disinfect the table first. We've always taught you guys to disinfect the table first before you actually bring your things out. So I don't even know why this was a question, but I'm sure you got to remember the cosmetologists also have to do a nail procedure. They have to do a manicure and a sculpted nail. So too bad for them. That's so messed up. But the table is going to be clean prior to you bringing anything out anyway. Just make sure the table is clean. This question was also asked, is a finger bath required for the manicure, meaning putting it in a manicure bowl? The answer to that is, or someone said, if so, does it need actual water or can they mock the process? So the answer that they gave was, Manicures can be wet or dry. So if you are bringing water, then you don't mock it. If you are, meaning you can't pretend that you're pouring water in there, it has to be actual water. If you are not bringing water and doing a dry manicure, then obviously you're not going to pretend that you're doing, you're not mocking anything. But why bring water and soap if you don't have to? Makes no sense. Okay. Now, someone asked, with the manicure, wouldn't the test steps be based on what's listed in the Milady book for a basic manicure? They said steps for the manicure are listed in the reference book procedure, which means if you go to look at the red book, if you look at the book, there's no list of steps for the manicure. They specifically say do as you were taught. So because not everybody teaches from the Milady textbook. Not everybody teaches from Pivot Point. Georgia says that you can teach whatever you want to teach or however you want to teach it, as long as you teach a manicure. So the steps do not have to be in any particular way. So it's do as you were taught. Okay. So that answers that question. As far as the proctor to test taker ratio, it's a 1-to-8. So 1 proctor to every 8 nail technicians. And so she's watching 8 people. So if there's 16 people in there, expect 2 proctors. Okay. Or more than 8, expect 2 proctors. I think they take no more than 16 from my understanding, technicians at a time. Someone asked, are you manicuring all 5 fingers? The answer is yes. The hand is required. No individual fingers is allowed. So you're not bringing just 1 finger. You're bringing a mannequin hand. You're going to do a manicure on all 5 fingers, not just one. I don't know why that was a question. We always did a manicure with five fingers anyway. Someone asked, does the workstation need to be reset for each topic, including the manicure and the nail form? The answer is yes. Each topic area is a standalone demonstration. So test takers only need to disinfect the workstation during the workstation prep. So the question reads kind of confusing. You do not need to sanitize in any other section except section 1, workstation prep, and section 5, workstation prep for the new client. That's it. No sanitizing the table in between. They're assuming from my understanding, this is all one client. Okay. There's no new client coming and sitting down. You're having to reset the table. Okay. Again, when in doubt, have them turn the page to the red book and tell you what the instructions are for each one. Now, just so you guys know, we will be doing a re-recording of the state board as we read it, as we see it, and how we were taught at this conference. Okay. So don't worry about it. That's coming soon. Me and Shayla just need to get together. All right. They asked, do you put on gloves to clean the table every time that they set and clean up? And the answer is gloves must be worn anytime they are touching disinfectant. You do not have to wear gloves during your full set, your any of the other procedures. However, me personally, I would have gloves on if I was using gel. Okay? I would have gloves on if I was using gel. So if you're planning to use gel, you probably need to put on some gloves, because if you get it on your hands, we just don't want to promote that. All right. Someone asked if the boxes of gloves, because you can now bring a whole box of gloves with you if you want to. You can put a whole entire box of gloves. For those of you that are going rogue and making your own kits, you can put a whole box of gloves in your kit. They asked when you're done with them, do they go into the multi-use? The answer is a box of gloves is considered universal supplies, and it can remain on the station at all times. You do not have to put it in either one of the bags at the end. Okay. Remember, there's no removal of everything off the table like it used to be. They asked, what brand of odorless monomers do you recommend for students? The answer was, we do not check for specific brands. So you can bring any brand you want. Don't worry about that part. Any brand you want to bring. But it must be sealed and it must have the label on it. In the manicure, do they only need to have gloves on during the cleaning, or do they have to keep them on during the service? That's another redundant question. They said gloves only need to be worn when they disinfect or encounter blood. Okay, y'all don't overthink this. They have made this easier. They've made this easier actually, so don't overthink it. Someone asked if the workstation stays sanitary. Does it need to be reset for each topic? They said no. The test takers only need to disinfect during those 2 sections. So this is, for some reason, very confusing to people. It's not confusing if you remember that you're only working with one client this entire test. Okay? There's no second client. Okay, like it was before. Remember, we had set up preparation for a new client. We set up the table in the beginning, we clean up the table in the end, and set it up for our next day. Okay, so there's no second client, so don't worry about that part. Gel or acrylic? They said either can be used for nails with a form. Builder gel, odorless acrylic, and if it requires a lamp to cure, you're responsible for bringing the lamp. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, this is one that I've got to clarify with them because we don't cut cuticles in nails. So someone asked, are we using nippers at the cuticle area for the manicure? They said yes, with the demonstration of the correct 45-degree angle during use. Please use nippers as taught in the test material references or your curriculum books. Here's the thing. We don't always need to cut anything, right? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Well, if I was going to state board, I would say my mannequin does not need their cuticles cut. So I might bring some nippers, but I'm not going to cut anything. Now, if I'm going to clarify this with them, but if they say you need to bring nippers, we'll add nippers to the kit, and then you'll just pretend like you're nipping, but you need to make sure you're doing it the proper way, which would mean holding your nippers properly and pretending like you're cutting whatever it is that you're cutting. Okay. They asked, how are the nippers stored? If you don't have them, if you don't have it in a wet sanitizer, which we don't store anything in a wet sanitizer or anything. Anyway, we just disinfect it and then we bring it out, dry it, and put it in a container. Now, they said you can either put it in a container that says clean implements or a bag that says clean implements. Okay. So we probably just start adding the nippers to our kids. All right. Let's see. What's another one? Someone asks, is it necessary for all disciplines to wash their hands during the beginning part of the exam or online? They said instead of washing hands, they sanitize their hands. So if you're one of our students, we're going to teach you how to pass the state board. But if you're in your mind saying, okay, I've got it, or if you're a apprentice, because a lot of people apprentice go and take the state board. A lot of people are learning in other schools that don't really necessarily focus on nails. If you're washing you're going to be using hand sanitizer, period. No washing hands. Are smart glasses allowed? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, if you wear a pair of smart glasses, they don't even care if your phone, if it's not connected, they don't know how them things work. If they're connected to your phone or anything, you cannot wear smart glasses. If they catch you with smart glasses on, you will be immediately banned from the state board. This means you will not be able to take your state board, and you will be reported to your state board for further review, which means that they probably will not allow you to get a license. So keep your little smart glasses. And we teach this in our course. Do not wear anything to your state board. Don't wear jewelry. Don't wear, because someone mentioned jewelry, bracelets. If your bracelets are in a place that you are touching them, or your hands touch them, or the gloves can't cover them, you've got to sanitize all the way up to that. And that's just too much of an aggravation and a chance for you to fail the test. So don't wear any jewelry. Nothing that you're going to be touching, nothing that's big and dangly, no necklaces that are, swaying. Because if those touch, they specifically said for people who are estheticians, they're bending over, they're doing these facials, the dang necklaces are dangling in people's face. That's annoying. Don't wear anything. Just go with wear your shirt and your cape and some pants, but don't wear any jewelry. Glasses only if you need them, but not smart glasses. Okay. So a lot of these questions are kind of redundant, so I'm just going to skip through some of that. If a student is failing at a specific location, who do we contact? They said you just need to reach out to Cosmetology at psionline.com and they will investigate the matter. So if you keep going to the same place and they keep failing you, which I don't know anybody that in our case that has ever done that, just make sure you reach out to them and report it. Okay. They said if a test taker cuts themselves, they said the incident must be handled correctly as stated in the reference books, meaning a blood procedure, and you must do it correctly. Okay, can't just stop and do whatever you want. Let's see, trying to make sure that I do the ones that are the most important, because again, some of these are very redundant. For the nail enhancement section, are they using two hands? Only one hand. Y'all don't bring two hands. Okay. One hand for the manicure. Use the same hand for your other sections. Now, you must pre-glue your fingers, your little short nails onto your mannequin hand. Nothing has changed about that. Nothing has changed about the length of the fingers. They must already be short enough for you to do a manicure on, and not a big long claw tip glued onto them. Make sure that your tips are glued on and cut short already, filed already. Everything that you're doing at the state board should be basically mocked, okay, when it comes to the manicure. Someone asked about a pink and white sculpted nail. Please don't do a pink and white sculpted nail at state board. Don't do that. That is too much time wasted. That's going to take you too much time. I mean, I guess you could, but they said that there's no need for it, okay? Nor is it required for the demonstration. Will you get points taken away if you do it? Probably not. They might be impressed, but there's no need. So why do it? You only got 20 minutes to do that one nail anyway. Just take your time with regular acrylic or gel or whichever you're going to choose. When doing the setup for the artificial nail, it reads like you want us to put the nail form on prior to when you're doing the table setup. I don't know why anyone asked that question. There's really no way that you can put the form on prior to starting that section. That's all part of doing an acrylic nail. So the answer to that is no, you do not put the form on before you start the section. This form goes on when they say you may begin. Okay. For basic manicure sections, are they polishing the nail? Specifically, they said no more polish. Okay. No more polish. I said that earlier. So again, there's a lot of redundant questions on here. Okay. So this is an important one. Are the products used during the state board, are they simulated products? Now, this is a question specifically that would be geared towards the hairstylist, because they have to pretend like they're doing a relaxer and they don't use real relaxer. They use like lotion or some kind of cream. So that's what they mean by simulated products. Yes, no more polish at all. That is no more polish for the manicure. So the only thing that we as nail technicians can use that could be simulated would probably be like the lotion or the oil, but we're taking that completely out because they said we can do a dry manicure. If you're doing a dry manicure, there's no need to be doing lotion and oil, but I personally would just do the massage just why not? Like, why not do it? You know what I mean? So you just to show it. But you don't have to necessarily use any oil or lotion. Someone asked, do they stand the entire exam? No, the nail techs do not stand the entire exam. They only stand up when they let us know that they're finished, okay? The basic manicure. Explain how to prepare the client and complete a basic manicure example. Are we using a finger bowl, water, etc.? So PSI is only looking for the test taker to complete the demonstration of the service as it is listed in the reference book, which is the reference book is the test taker guide. So listen, y'all, they're very vague about stuff because they don't want to tell you how to do this stuff. You should know how to do a manicure. Now, if they tell you it can be a dry manicure, how do you do a dry manicure? How were you taught to do a dry manicure? So in the reference book, it just says perform the service. So you can't fail this, y'all. Don't overthink it. Do it how you were taught. If you want to bring water and use water, you bring water. You better bring some towels. That's all I'm going to say. And we're not including towels in ours anymore. So they are welcome to bring the small bottle of water if they'd like to leave it at the top of their station, but it must be closed when not in use. Nippers are required for the manicure demonstration, and test takers will be evaluated on their use. So there you go. Nippers are required, but when you use them, make sure you're using them the right way. I don't know how you can mess that up. It's not a real client anyway. They don't have real cuticles to cut. So just make sure you're not holding them in properly. Okay. So, let's see. You don't have to bring SDS sheets and stuff like that. That was never a thing anyway. I don't know why people are asking that. Kit sizes, make sure that your kits aren't huge if you are not bringing one of our kits. And then your universal supplies, they have not changed. Everything is the same. We talked about, one of the thing with the blood exposure procedure, you still have to have it. Now, they've changed it where you don't have to bring 2 forms of ID to both tests, but I recommend you bring 2 forms of ID regardless. Why not? Because you're going to forget which one you're supposed to only have one for. Just bring 2 forms of ID. That's going to be your ID, your social security card, or it can be a credit card with your signature, an unexpired bank card. Okay. Got to make sure your bags are labeled. Nothing has changed about that. They are not going to repeat the instructions anymore. Okay. Remember, they used to repeat the instructions. They don't do that anymore. No more repeating. So listen, you got to listen. Then again, if they don't repeat it, you still got the red book beside you, or so everything's here for you to pass this test. And they said, are we to assume that every topic is with the same client? Each client is for the nails. Each topic is for the same client, except that last one where you reset. Okay. Returning items to the kit. Do we return items to the kit? We teach y'all this when we teach it, the state board. Never, ever, 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 ever put anything back in the kit. The kit is a clean, disinfected area. It cannot go back until everything has to be clean and disinfected. So the answer is no. It goes in one of 2 places at the state board, either on your table, 3 places, either staying on the table or in your multi-use or single-use bags. Okay. So to quickly go through the rest of these really quick, because these are all questions that it didn't change from the last time anyway. Are towels necessary? Towels are not required and can be considered contaminated if reused or become soiled. So why bring them? Don't bring towels. You bring puppy pads, throw them away. All right. So it won't confuse you. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So as far as the rest of this is all people asking the same questions over and over again. I mean, literally over and over again. So since we are finished with explaining this exam and the changes, does anybody have any questions? Okay. I see we have one here on the YouTube here. Ellen I said, "Oh, you're pretty girl. After the nail service, do I keep the mannequin hand on my station after disinfecting?" The answer is, for the first section, after the only time you take your hand off of that table is at the end. They're asking you now to put the mannequin hand on the floor. So the mannequin hand stays on the table at all times until the very end when you get ready for, just think about it. The very last section is reset your table, get it ready for the next client for tomorrow morning. Your client gonna be gone, right? Your client ain't there no more. They paid and left. So instead of them paying and leaving because it's a mannequin hand, they're gonna leave the table and go sit on the floor. And this is, I think it's crazy that they make you put it on the floor. but it doesn't belong in the the soil, the single use or the multi-use either. So it kind of makes sense to put the mannequin hand somewhere where it can't be seen. Okay. So the only time the mannequin hand, to answer that question, comes off the station is when you're done cleaning up your table. Go ahead and put it on the floor and then clean up your table. Okay. Again, we will redo the videos that we had for our students, and for people who are not our students that want to watch the proper way to do the state board, just give us some time. We will have them out probably before the end of next month. I promise you that. Okay. Even if I got to do it by myself. Shayla's going to be there to help me, I'm sure. So we'll get those videos, redo the videos. But even if you have been watching the ones we already have, you will be fine at the state board. Okay. You'll be fine. They're just taken out. Okay. Someone asked, where can I find those videos? They are on our website. Go to marynegronschoolandnails.com and you'll see, you'll go to shop and you'll see where replays. It's under replays. We have all those videos. Every video from our classroom that we record goes into the replays. All right. Just so I'm going to scroll through this TikTok real quick. Some silly questions on here too. Someone said, I'm reviewing the state board rules for nail technicians. Ask your exam questions. I don't really know what you mean by that, but this is amazing. No more polish. Yep. No more polish at all. There's no need for it. We will not include it in the kits. Don't bring it. They're not requiring it. So why would you do it? Now, again, these are suggested. If you do a polish, they didn't tell you to, but if you do a polish, are you going to fail? Probably not. Probably not. Okay. Just don't do it. It's not necessary. All right. If there's no more questions. Okay. I see there's a couple of here. Let's see. I'm in nail school right now. We're doing infection control tests today. Will you make sure that you go back and review those, because 50% of your test is infection control. Okay. Thank you, AKC. Let's see. Hi, this might be a silly question, but are you doing in-person classes or is it only online? We've never done only online. So you still have to come in person on either Friday or Saturday. With that being said, I'm going to announce a couple of things. We are going to be doing an evening class. We're adding that to the schedule. I will be teaching that unless I'm busy. Ms. Shayla can substitute for me, but we are going to be having a night class. It will be one day a week. What day I say I wanted to do it on? Tuesday? Was it Tuesday or Thursday? I can't remember. We are going to be announcing that.
I think it was Thursday, but you'll have all the information later.
Right. You guys will get all the information, but we are going to be doing an evening class. Okay. We are also looking for, we are reaching out to some of our prior graduates that have been licensed for a year or close to it. We're also going to be hiring some new instructors and doing some instructor training. We do not train instructors that did not go to our school. Okay. So if you're interested in being an instructor and you are a graduate, you do not have to have a year completed yet, but you do have to have a year of being a licensed nail tech by the time you go to take your state board. So if you are interested, and I have quite a few people on this live in mind, Jen is one of them. Okay. That I would love to call back to be instructors. One day a week. That's all we're asking for you guys to work. Okay. If you're interested in being an instructor at the school. Okay. I'm trying to fill up every day, to be honest. And our A&T course has been scheduled, as well as we are putting on a GELX course, certification course. It has also been scheduled. We will announce those dates within the week. Okay. So if you're interested, let me know. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Miss Shayla. Miss Shayla don't put all her info out there like that because she don't want y'all bothering her, but you can reach me. She got enough on her plate with her now, 16 students, and we're about to add 4 more to her for this new course. If you are interested in starting with us, we do have a class starting. The orientation is on Sunday. The orientation will be via Zoom. Okay, it'll be online, and then they will be starting the following week. Okay, so Friday and Saturday for 40 weeks, new class starting, and then again we're going to start a night class. I'm probably going to give that another month before we start that and get through a little bit of, let me get a little bit of my summer worked out. Okay. And then if you guys have any questions, again, you can always reach out to me, Mary Negron School of Nails, on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, everything. Okay. Feel free to reach out to me. All right. And for the students, y'all message Shayla. If you're already a student at the school, she's got the answers for you. She was with me. She probably, and she's fresh. Last time I took a state board for nails was 30 years ago. So 20 some years ago. 20 years ago, excuse me. So y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Shayla, you have anything else you want to say or add?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in on the live, Shayla. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and good luck to y'all on your state boards. I hope y'all pass and we all get our licenses, and we're here for you if you need us. All right. Y'all have a good one. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.